Okay, so today we're going to be working an exercise program for rehabilitating an Achilles tendon rupture. This is my model Cooper, and he's going to be demonstrating with me what we're doing. Okay, so first off, the Achilles tendon is the tendon that connects the calcaneus, also known as the heel bone, to the gastrocnemius and the soleus, which is your calf muscles. It's this tendon right along here. So whenever it is ruptured, most of the time it's a complete tear right about, right about here. And it's just, you'll notice because there'll be an obvious gap from here to here. And yeah, so we're going to demonstrate through 4 phases. You're going to have your controlled mobilization, your early rehabilitation phase, your late rehabilitation phase, and return to play. So Coop, if you can lie over here, we're going to start with the controlled mobilization phase. So we're going to have the patient lie down, and right now we're going to do plantar flexion. So you have your patient lie in the supine position, and I'm going to need you to have your foot straight up. So we're going to say your right leg. Okay, so we're going to do where you have your patient's foot in complete plantar flexion, and you're going to want them to move it to 15 degrees dorsiflexion, which is going to have them move their foot in this direction, just about 15 degrees. And you're going to have them do it back and forth. So to start off, you're going to want your patient to do about 4 sets of 10 reps. And as you go along, you're going to have them increase resistance. So you start off with no resistance, and then you start working your way up to a yellow TheraBand, a red TheraBand, and a blue TheraBand. Okay? All right. So now we're going to do seated bilateral heel raises. So Coop, if you can come sit in this chair. All right. So for seated bilateral heel raises, Coop's kind of tall, so hopefully this is accurate. It looks about right. You're going to want your patient to have their hips and knees at a 90-degree flexed angle with their feet on the ground, completely on the ground. So all they're going to do is basically do calf raises, which are the same as heel raises. So you're just going to push up and back down. You want your patient to maintain equal weight on both legs. So when you're having a ruptured Achilles tendon, they're not going to want to put as much weight on their injured leg, obviously, because it hurts. But you're going to try to make sure that they do. And for this, you do about 2 sets of 10 reps, and you'd have them do it for about 10 seconds. Okay. So as your patient progresses through the controlled mobilization phase, obviously they're going to get stronger. So as they get stronger, you're going to start escalating to more difficult things. So next we're going to do bilateral heel raises. So Coop, if you will just stand up. And you're doing basically the exact same thing, but obviously standing. And at this point, you might have your patient with parallel bars, just because obviously most of the time they're not stable enough to do it on their own. Just like the seated bilateral heel raises, you're going to want them to have equal weight on both legs, which Coop is doing a pretty good job of. And with this, you're most likely going to want them to do about 3 sets of 20 reps. And I mean, obviously I give you sets and reps, but it also just depends on the patient and whether the tear is acute or a chronic rupture. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do for controlled mobilization phase is we're going to do the short foot exercise. So the goal of this is they're going to start off with their foot basically flat on the ground. And their goal is to create an arch right here while keeping the toes down. So they're going to pull the metatarsals towards the calcaneus without picking up their foot. So just like that. And that is the controlled mobilization phase. Okay, so now we're going to start the early rehabilitation phase. So the exercises we're going to do for this phase is figure 8 walking, standing unilateral heel raises, and we're going to do subtalar joint side lying. So for the figure 8 exercise, what we're going to do is you're going to put, sorry, my finger just got in front of the camera. You're going to put obstacles. We use chairs because they're convenient, but you could use cones or stuff like that. And you're going to place them about 4 to 5 feet apart from each other. So the goal of this is to study the gait of your patient. So Coop's going to walk in a figure 8 motion while keeping his head up, and he's going to try to walk as smoothly as he possibly can. So Coop, if you could go ahead and do that. And watch how smooth his movement of his legs are. Okay, and that's the figure 8 walking. Okay, so next we're going to do standing unilateral heel raises, which is same as bilateral, just one leg instead of two, preferably your injured leg, which is Coop's right leg. So with this, you're going to want to just be able to try to keep your balance. You might need to have your patient with parallel bars or something to hold them steady. So with this, Coop, if you'll go ahead and start demonstrating. With this, you're going to want your patient to do about 4 sets of 25 reps. And as you can see, which I probably should have demonstrated on the other heel raises, is you can see the flexion coming from the Achilles tendon, where the gastrocnemius and the soleus are pulling at the calcaneus to flex it. That's probably not right terminology, but we'll work with it. Okay, so the last thing we're going to demonstrate is subtalar joint side lying. So Coop, if you can come lay over here. Okay, so you're going to have your patient lay on their injured side. And you're going to have them with their legs straight. So Coop, if you could go up just a little bit. And their foot's going to hang off the table. Okay, I'm going to move you just a little bit down. There you go. Obviously, we're not on a table, we're on a stage, so yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move Coop's other leg, and we're going to focus on his injured leg. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold down the foot while the other hand holds the calcaneus, and you're going to work it from inversion to eversion. And so okay, so sorry, I got to get someone to hold the camera for me. Didn't think this far ahead. Okay, so I'm going to hold down his foot right here. And I'm going to grab his calcaneus. And I'm going to move it into inversion and eversion just at the calcaneus. And you can really see the Achilles tendon moving right here. Okay, and that's all she wrote for early rehabilitation. Okay, so the next phase we are entering is the late rehabilitation phase. So in this phase, Coop's gonna demonstrate, not I. I'm hiding behind this camera. He's gonna demonstrate forward lunges, squats, and straight running. So for the forward lunge, you're gonna have your patient, obviously we know what lunges are. So the main goal of this is to have the patient keep their toes facing forward, their hips forward, and that their knees remain over their toes. So Coop, if you can demonstrate a forward lunge. And as you can see that the tension in his calf muscles, which is obviously working that Achilles tendon and strengthening it back up. So you're gonna have them do it on both legs just to make sure like it that they keep the muscle strength in both legs and not just the one. Okay, so now we're gonna demonstrate squats. So with squats, you're gonna want your patient to keep their toes straight and keep their knees over their toes. Okay, Coop, if you can demonstrate. And as you can see, you can really see that tension in the calf muscles as we go through the squats. Probably mostly due to the flexion of the knee. So your calf muscles are helping in flexion, or most likely your gastrocnemius as opposed to your soleus. Okay. And the last thing Coop is going to show is straight running. So like figure eights, you're going to want to keep your patient running as smooth as possible. Their posture is everything in this. So Coop, if you can demonstrate straight running. And you're gonna test their gait. Not test, you're gonna study their gait. And so just like in figure eight walking, you're gonna determine how good their gait is by the steps they take and how smooth they are running. And that is it for the late rehabilitation phase. Okay, so the last phase we're entering is return to play. So with return to play, we're doing figure eight jogging, side shuffle, and backward jogging. So with the figure eight jogging, it's the same as figure eight walking, except you're jogging instead. So Coop, if you can demonstrate that for us. For this, we're studying gait once again, keeping your patient's head straight up. You're gonna determine how smooth they're jogging and how many steps they're taking in between. So next, we're gonna do side shuffle. If Coop, you could come over here. And side shuffle is basically just a squat, but you're shuffling to the side. Okay, Coop, just like that. And just like in the squat, because it is basically the same motion, you do see the contraction of his calf muscles. Okay. And lastly, we're going to demonstrate backwards jogging. Okay. Go right ahead. And you can obviously see from the side the flexion in his, the contraction of his calf muscles as he takes steps back, which really is what we're aiming to work because, like I said before, your Achilles tendon is the connection between your calf muscle and your calcaneus, and it's just right along here. So those are the 4 phases. So as we go through this rehabilitation process, you're going to spend about the first 7 weeks after surgery in your controlled mobilization phase. Then weeks 8 through 13 is spent in the early rehabilitation phase. Weeks 14 through 22 is spent in the late rehabilitation phase. And about week 23 through 26 is where you return to play. So for the surgery, with your Achilles tendon, like we said before, when it is ruptured, it ruptures about right here. So they will surgically repair that, and then you'll be immobilized. So while in the controlled mobilization and partially through the early rehabilitation phase, your patient will probably be in an orthosis. I probably didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. So basically, when you see people walking around in a boot, that's what they're in. And so you have to adjust to it. With controlled mobilization, you try to keep them with early weight bearing so that they're able to perform these exercises, because the sooner they're able to bear weight, the sooner they can do these. And that is all I have for the rehabilitation of an Achilles tendon rupture.